From classrooms to the field, truth and laughter both revealed. Tune in for that special feel. Nampa School's always real. Welcome to Nampa, where dreams can grow. Matt and Tyler on the show. Welcome to Nampa, where dreams can grow. Matt and Tyler on the show. Welcome to Nampa, hear the beat. Join the podcast, take your seat.
All right, welcome into episode 22 already of the Nampa School District Podcast. My name is Tyler Keefe, and back today and not being a slacker like yesterday is Mr. Matt Sizemore. Matt, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm all right. I'm here, so good, I suppose.
You know, that's one of your 5 things you had to do this week.
Yeah. It helps. My daughter had a random day off yesterday for parent-teacher conferences, so I was in charge of her the first part of the day and missed our podcast yesterday, unfortunately.
Well, and we missed having you.
Thank you.
And we were talking softball. It was amazing, so you're going to have to go back and listen.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's all good. So what we're going to do, we had a plan of what we were going to do today for track.
Okay.
And we were going to have all 3 coaches on at once, but we just found out that Columbia's coach is actually at their state basketball game right now, and it's in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring him on first, kind of talk with him a little bit so that he can get back, because what we just heard, it's like a 6-point game, and we don't want him to miss the whole rest of the 4th quarter.
Yeah. We're going to have to get him in and out of here pretty quickly, and we want to know how that game is going as well. So kind of like you said, we've got some track coaches here joining us today. We're waiting on one. Hopefully he joins us. But in the meantime, we've got Columbia High's head track coach, Charles Dotson, as well as Nampa High's head coach, Kylie Wells. Thank you both for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's get right into it. First thing we want to know is your backgrounds. Obviously, if you're the head coach of anything, you know a lot about it. So why don't we start really quick with Columbia's? We'll do some alphabetical order. And Coach Dotson, tell me a little bit about your background, your track background, but whether as an athlete and leading into a coach.
Yeah, so in Montana, I played football, basketball, and ran track. This is my 4th year at Columbia, and I'm also the head football coach as well.
Gotcha. All right. How about you, Kylie?
So I ran cross country and track in high school in Gresham, Oregon, and then I was a athlete at University of Oregon, ran track and cross country at the University of Oregon. I coached in Oregon for about 20 years, and now I'm starting my 5th year here at Nampa High.
Awesome. All right. Good stuff. So,
whoa, hold on.
We're holding
Matt.
on. We're holding on.
She's talking about Oregon, so I'm gonna have to boot her.
I thought you might have missed
sorry.
that.
No, I didn't miss that.
Yeah.
I've got purple and gold in my blood, so sorry. I'm just gonna have to say see you later.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry about that.
that 0 behind you, that's not no, that's a 0 for a reason.
No.
I was like, you triggered Tyler here.
You know what happened. So Kylie, and I mean this in the best way. We're gonna just focus on Columbia really quick so that we can get him back into the game, and because I'm really curious what the score is. I have not got a text from anybody. So Charlie, really quick. You coach football and you coach track. There's obviously a big difference between the two, but how are some of your coaching philosophies similar between the two? And then how do you approach the 2 different seasons differently, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's been a huge advantage for football and track. The biggest thing is we just got to learn to compete. Obviously, football is a lot more of a team sport, but we just need, we're having our kids focus on their personal best and personal records, but also the team of track. When I first took over 4 years ago, we had about 40 kids out. Now we have 131.
Wow.
So, really, the football guys don't have a choice. If they're not doing baseball, they're running with us. Because, speed's king. So that's been a huge advantage. Last year, for the first time in Columbia's history, we won JV districts. So, and all those kids are freshmen. So, just moving those kids up with that's the boys' side, and then getting our girls to be more competitive as well.
I want to follow up on that. So your football players, they don't have if they're not playing baseball, then they're doing track. So I mean, do you have just like offensive? Do you have the biggest throwing team in the world then?
Yeah, coach over there knows. We had like 35 throwers last year. Which has been great.
Yeah.
And kids can play tennis too. I don't want to leave out tennis, but
okay. Well, I still see then why you have so many throwers.
Yeah, it's fun.
Gotcha. And let's hear about your teams. How'd they do last season? And how's that going to translate to this season?
Yeah, like I said, we just we really focused on just getting our kids to compete. At state, our boys were competitive, and our girls are getting there. But all of our kids last year were freshmen and sophomore. We have Colin Weimer. We got some pretty big names that obviously out of Weimer's little brother that just signed at Lewis and Clark. We have the Hammer kids. There's still two of them pole vaulting. We have some really solid 400 runners, a solid distance runner in Devin Davis. And then, just a couple jumpers, too, that's going to be fun to watch.
Gotcha. And Coach Wells, we're going to get to you, I promise, in just a second. We're trying to get Coach Dotson out here and back to the games in the fourth quarter. So let's just ask you a couple more things, Coach Dotson, real quick.
I'm good.
Why would you say, you've been the track coach for a while, participated in track. I mean, a lot of your athletes from football, it's translating right over and helps that track season. Why would you tell fans in the community to always come out and support their track teams?
I just think the amount of growth that our program and our organization has had as a whole, you can see it. It's 9-day difference. Like, I was talking to my coaches yesterday. We were running flying 30s, flying 10s. Our numbers, our data is by far the highest it's ever been. What's cool about it is all of our kids are bought in. All of our kids are lifting. They're having fun. They're dancing at practice. I think they deserve the support of the community just to come see the change in the culture.
Awesome. And last thing I want to ask you really quick, with the changes in oh my gosh, I can't remember the word. The 6A, 5A, all those changes that happened over the off season. How excited are you now to make sure or to see that you're going to be playing all the rival district schools here in the Nampa School District?
Yeah, I love it, man. It's all about those rivalries. I was talking to the Middleton coach the other day, and she was looking at some of our numbers, and she's like, "Man, you guys are really going to be competitive," because obviously she wasn't in our district last year. But it's cool to hear that another coach see that and recognize that as well. But yeah, it's all about the rivalries. I love it.
All right, Coach. Well, we're going to get you out of here then. Any last things you have to say or want to add about your upcoming track season?
Nope. I appreciate you having me on here. We are hosting track meet March 13th, so hope to see you all there.
Awesome. All right. Head coach Charlie Dotson with Columbia High School. Thanks for being here, and best of luck on the season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, now thank you for hanging on there, Coach Wells, and hanging out with us. Let's get back to you now. How about your expectations for this upcoming season and how you did last season?
Well, we have a huge group out this year. It's kind of cool that Coach Dotson was talking about his football players because we got a new head football coach this year, Coach Thomas, and he has required all his football players to come out. He calls it free speed camp. So we've got a nice big group of football players, and no matter what, they're running some 100s and they're doing some speed training right now. Also working on some of the throws because some of them are big guys that can throw far. So the numbers, the group of kids we have, I'm thrilled with what's going on this year. Just like Coach Dotson said, about 5 years ago when I took over, we had about 60 kids probably, and now we're looking at, I have 142 right now on my roster. So it's really exciting to see the growth.
Is that a record right there?
It's close to where we've been so far since I've been here.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that's really interesting is there are some parallels between how you prepare for football and track, and especially with just the conditioning side. You know, with football, you have the average of 4-second play, but then with track, you're running 100. The races, all that stuff, the throwing. It's all the same kind of muscle movements. How with the football players, specifically. How do those players adapt to track and field in those kind of events? Or are they just kind of out there because they're told to be there?
No, it's been really cool. They're really buying in, and I can tell they're really excited after their season that they had. They want to get better. And there's a culture. Coach Thomas started it, and we're starting it. We're a family, and we're only as strong as our weakest link, and we got to help each other and be there for each other and encourage each other. And it's been really cool. Like our team, some of our leaders from last year that don't play football with the leaders from the football team, they've really stepped up working together and being leaders on the team.
Gotcha. How about obviously, I feel like in any given season, records can be broken, and especially as these kids are, they have whether it's technology or nutrition or whatever it is, kids are getting bigger and stronger all the time. So, any records or anything that you're looking at that could potentially be broken this year?
Oh, absolutely. We have senior Tegan Lords, who has been to state for the past 3 years, looking at going again. He's placed at state, and he currently holds the 300-meter hurdle record. He's shooting for the 110s. He also could break our 400 record. He was on our 4x200 team as a freshman that won state and set our school record. Oh, him definitely. I've got a couple shot putters, William Ross and Julian Tapia, that are just doing phenomenal, that could really set some records and compete at state. And then on the girls' side, we have a hurdler that's returning, who's a senior, Danae Martinez. She went to districts last year and placed pretty well. Missed state barely after having her tonsils removed. So having a full season will really be great for her. And then actually one of the cool things, my daughter Sylvia Wells is a junior this year, and she's going for that 400-meter girls record this year. So.
And that's what I was just going to say. We've talked quite a bit about football and the boys and stuff, but what are some of the standout girls? But then you just went right into it, so I didn't even have to ask that. But that does lead into a question, because we talked about the football and them being required to do the spring if they're not in another sport. Do any of the volleyball or the cheer and dance coaches require the same thing of their athletes?
I don't think it's necessarily required, but it's highly encouraged. I do have a ton of dancers that have come out on our team. And again, for football, I just want to say, Coach Thomas, if they're not playing baseball or tennis, they're still, if they're not doing anything, they're out for track, is basically. But the other coaches are awesome about encouraging the kids. Our soccer coach, we have some soccer players out. We've got a couple of volleyball players that are great high jumpers. In fact, Claire Shiner, who went to districts last year and did really well. Haley Karpowitz is a basketball and a volleyball player, and she went to state as a freshman, missed out last year, but jumping really well this year. So.
And I'm going to ask you one more question. As Mr. Dave Young has just walked into the studio, he decided to come in physically. So this has just been an episode of, how we adjust on the fly. And, me being a former teacher, I'm like, okay, whatever, let's just roll. This past year, we put in new field turf at all three of our high schools. And a lot of people out there were like, oh, this is just football. This is only going to help football. But in reality, when I leave the office, I see you guys practicing out there now. And so I'm really curious. I know somewhat of the answer, but how are your athletes benefiting from this currently? And then how have they benefited from it, basically since it was installed?
Well, I can say this. I'm a PE teacher here at Nampa, and even for schooling, for PE, it's been fabulous to go out there and be able to play on the turf and not be muddy and soaking wet. And, we even use it for school. But for my track athletes, what I absolutely love is it's a softer surface. And one of the number one injuries of track is shin splints. And to get them on that soft turf, we did some 100-meter flies on there. It's a really nice adaptation to get them off the track. The track is hard. That turf is soft. It's great. The kids love it.
And you guys got a new track this past year too, as well. Was it a full new track or just resurfaced? I can't remember.
Ours was just resurfaced this year.
Okay, yeah. Got it.
So it was red, but now it's black, which looks a lot better with the new red turf. So it's black now and painted, and it looks really nice. The kids were pretty excited about it. And we finally got our relay zones right. So
cool.
That's good too.
Matt, any last questions for Nampa High before we let her go and we bring Dave Young in?
I wanted to ask about that division realignment for you with all the schools being in 5A now. How it's 5A, right?
Actually, Nampa is not in 5A for individual sports. So actually our team sports like basketball and football got moved to 5A, but individual sports like cross country, track, wrestling, tennis, we're all 6A. So I actually don't get to compete against Skyview and Columbia. We compete against like Boise and Rocky and Bora, that. Yeah.
But that's just this year. And then is it next year or is it in 2 years that you might be able to bump down?
Well, currently, as I was notified, we have to go next year as well, but there's things being talked about, I guess. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Okay, gotcha. Well, how about your thoughts on that and competing against the bigger
yeah, it's it gives our kids a chance to run against some great competition. We don't get the accolades that I think some of our kids deserve, because we're going against teams like, Rocky had like 200 plus kids on their track team, and I was working with about 112 last year. So, it's almost double. It's hard to go against that, in cross country. I was the head cross country coach here at Nampa, and I had 4 girls on the team going against a Boise team that has like 40 girls on their team. I can't even make a team, so it's hard for the kids because they work really hard, but it's just, we're competing against the best. So that's nice for them.
Oh my gosh.
And so one last thing for you, be glad I don't know where your office is. Because
I'm really glad
that 0 behind you would be taken down.
0.
Hey, I was a duck. I bleed green and yellow, man. I ran a lot of track and field on that field, and
that is the thing. I mean, Oregon is a good track and field school. I just make fun of it for football, just because the bandwagon fans and all that funness. But they really are known for the track and stuff. It's fantastic. I know a lot of people that went there, and they have that culture for all of it. I mean, that's where Nike came from, and all that jazz. So, is there? And this is a serious question. I'm not making fun of it. Is there anything that you learned from Oregon that you're instilling in your current athletes?
Oh, absolutely. When I ran at Oregon, it was some of the best times of my life, like learning and seeing the love of the sport and what it takes to be the best and what these people did and what I went through as an athlete. I take a lot of that with me and share it with the kids. And there's something to be said about telling them, hey, I ran at U of O, U of O, like I know what I'm talking about. Let's listen up, and there's a sense of respect too about it, it was a great program, and it was a love, and the fans were amazing. And so I was blessed.
Yeah. Last question for you, Kylie. Why would you, or what I should say, would you tell fans or the community to make sure that they come out and watch their Bulldog track this year?
Track is one of those sports that all kids, every single kid, JV, varsity, every level, they get to compete, and we get to see kids. It's all about an individual improvement. And we see kids that finish maybe second to last that are jumping up and down and cheering because they just ran or threw or jumped a PR. And it's an amazing thing to see kids individually improve and be proud, no matter if they won or lost the race. It's a different feeling than going to a race or a game and winning and losing. Like watching what these kids put into it, it's a hard sport, and they work hard, and they deserve to be recognized for what they do.
Awesome stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. And
Absolutely.
those of you that are watching online versus listening, we're going to take a quick break so that we can get Mr. Dave Young in, and we will be right back.
How's it going? All right. Well, joining us live right now is head coach for Skyview High School, Dave Young. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I got my best Matt Sizemore voice going right now.
Is that it?
Got a little throat thing that's come up because I think, I haven't used my coaching voice for quite some time. And so a full week of track practice, weather's up and down and voice has gotten raspy. So, yeah,
Sure.
It's a little deeper today.
Okay. Well, I hope you recover. Blessing and a curse. Just kidding. So first thing we wanted you to do, you just explained off air to us brilliantly how the 5A, 6A, basically everything in the off season has worked. So you, as well as Columbia, or I should say Skyview, as well as Columbia, both in the 5A, like we heard from Kylie, Coach Wells just a moment ago, they're in the 6A. So how exactly, just break down a little bit how this has all worked.
So the way the classifications work is it's a 2-year cycle. Year one of the cycle is the count year. That's where they're taking a November snapshot, and then I think it's May snapshot, maybe it's April, of your building and your student population.
Okay.
And then based on that student population, your school will be a 6A school, a 5A school, or a 4A school. So currently Skyview and Columbia are 5A schools, and Nampa is a 6A school. And then year two of the count or the cycle is kind of the buffer year where you can look at petitioning programs up and down versus where you're supposed to go. Other proposals go throughout the state. And then that following year is the action year, where you actually move up and down. So this is year one of Nampa being up at 6A and Columbia and Skyview both being down at 5A. So like what you see is the individual sports teams for Nampa are all 6A this year and next school year.
Okay.
And then the difference is team sports, you can petition them up and down, and it doesn't mean you're going to be granted. But, for example, Skyview petitioned volleyball up, and we were granted. So our Skyview volleyball team is up at 6A this last fall and next fall, and then we'll have to petition again going into that 26-27 school year. For Nampa High School right now, their projection is that they will move down as a school to 5A that same school year, 26-27, and then they wouldn't have to petition up and down unless they choose to.
Gotcha.
And so there are some of their team sports that petition down and were granted, I believe football, basketball, all the ones, but individual sports you cannot petition, team sports you can.
Okay. And part of that, just so those listening, it was kind of an interesting year because we did have the reboundary that happened. We did have some fluctuations from the year before. It wasn't like a major change, but it did kind of put Nampa right over the line.
Yes.
And then did it put you guys right under the line, or how did that work out for Skyview specifically?
So for one, the line changed. So
right.
At the same time, we reboundaried as a school district, and we're trying to level out our 3 schools, get a little closer to even between the 3 schools,
right.
which is the right idea. But then the state of Idaho, the IHSA, moved the line when they changed to the 6A classification. And so the old number used to be 1280 to move up and down, and now it's 1400. And so we are way below that versus we were close at the
right.
1280. And now, because we're about 1150 right now. but definitely benefited Nampa because Nampa was always 1,500, 1,400. And as our school district's been shrinking, it really has been punishing Nampa because they were just above the line. And then with this new line, yes, with the reboundary, a lot of our juniors and seniors chose to stay, and we granted all that. We're an open enrollment district. So, yeah, Nampa kind of got caught just above the line where they really do fit with us as a whole school in the 5A. So 2 more years, we should all be there.
Nice. So I want to know, first off, this is going to be a 2-part question. How long have you been head track coach now?
This is year number 15.
Oh, my gosh. I did not know that. Okay, year number 15. However, it is year number 1 for you as head track coach and principal
Correct.
Of Skyview. So how do you think that'll factor in, if at all?
It's definitely a different balancing act. I know, the district leaders were a little nervous at first and wanted to know my plan and what the idea was. And just part of the reassurance is track is a different kind of busy than football and basketball. It's not the same year-round sport. You're not running the same type of preseason and summertime. And track is very intensive during the season itself, which is really about 2.5 months long is all it is. That's even shorter. And then the school year is a different kind of busy. At the beginning of the school year, you're trying to get through registrations, get kids into school, and it's crazy. By the end of the school year, it's slowing down just a little bit. But what I'm doing for me as a track staff, I'm relying on all my coaches a whole lot more. And then as a building principal, I'm relying on my VPs and my counselors and my dean a whole lot more. And partly I was granted this because my daughter's a senior and she's the baby of the family. And that's kind of the family business, family rules. I'm going to coach all my kids. And I coached both my boys in football and they both ran track for me. And then my daughter, during COVID, I was her personal assistant, right? Get her through just a lot of volleyball drills almost every day. Dad, can we lift and run? Dad, can we go do volleyball and lift? Dad.
Great.
And so, that's the number one priority for me is, take care of my family. And where it's, one season, they granted me the opportunity, which is awesome.
No, that's super cool that you're able to do that. And, that said, is this the last year you're going to coach track? Or are you even able to say?
Oh, man.
Well, I can say. You want kids to work hard and be motivated for you, but yes, this will be the last year I coach track.
Oh, man, exclusive right here.
Yeah, it's a little sad. A lot of people know it's not a secret, and of course with kids and parents, I think, there's always a hope that, hey, maybe you can keep going and whatnot. And, I guess we can always cross a bridge another day, but you also don't want to stretch yourself too thin. You want to be fair to everybody, and I don't want to be half a track coach. I don't want to be half a principal. I want to be full and do the best job I can with whatever the role is.
Gotcha. So with all that being said, if this is indeed your last year as head track coach, 15 years, that's incredible. Hopefully you're going to be going out with an absolute bang. So looking from last season into this season, what are your expectations? How'd last season go, and what are you looking for this season?
Last year on the boys' side, we had a few really, really good boys, but we were really, really young. So, we didn't go to state and fare very well. And at districts, we got a handful of kids through. We battled an injury with our number 1 sprinter, but then he graduated, went to C of I. This year on the boys' side, still very young. We have a lot of freshmen and sophomore good-looking athletes. Kind of like you were talking to Coach Wells about football players. We got a lot of football players in that freshman, sophomore group, which we're excited about. But we do have a core 4 or 5 boys, a Dane Bowman, a Tyler Bird, Cash Peterson. We've got some boys that can go to state and do some things, both individually and then on relays. We're really big about relays. The girls' side, we were the state champions last year. We were the old 4A state champions. And this year, we lost 3 or 4 really good girls that were a part of that, but we believe we have replacements. And so we think our girls can go compete for the district championship and go compete for a state trophy. We just don't know what color it's going to be yet. So that's why you go through the season. But we're really excited about it.
Gotcha.
Now, it's no secret that Skyview is a volleyball powerhouse, been a dance powerhouse, been football off and on over the years, been basketball off and on over the years, track off and on over the years. they were talking about how with Columbia and Nampa, how their football coaches make their players do track if they're not doing another sport. With the girls, same thing with volleyball. Do you guys do the same thing, something similar over at Skyview, where if they're not in a spring sport, they're in track?
It really goes by programs. So when I was the head football coach and head track coach at the same time, yes, like 75% of our kids did come out for track because pretty much my whole football staff also coached track. And so it was just a great way to get to know kids and kids to get to know coaches differently, right? Because football is such a intense sport. Track is not the same intensity. You're intense for moments, but there's downtime. So you can get to know kids a lot more personally, which was awesome. Volleyball it kind of cycles back and forth, but like the whole Ney family has pretty much run track. Iyer, Melissa Iyer was on our state championship team last year, went to state in 4 events. My daughter, she's a volleyball track girl. She does it. So it just kind of depends. And some girls are so into club, they just don't have the time, where some kids are like, you know what, track. So track's a different sport in the sense where it can be a competitive break in a way. Because again, football, wrestling, basketball, even baseball, they can be very, very intense. Where again, in track, a lot of times our practices are an hour and a half long. And when we go to a meet, which is all day, 5 hours, 6 hours, but a kid's going to go compete 2, 3, 4 times. So it's warm up, go be intense, and then you get a 30-minute break, an hour break. So sometimes kids can go be around different people, different coaches, hear a different voice, and yet still be focused on their other sports. So when I was the head football and head track coach, I would tell kids, I'm like, guys, even for me, track is my secondary sport, and that's okay. I still love it. I'm still intense about it. We're still going to be good. But you can be focused on your basketball, football, or volleyball and still come out and have fun and have a good time. So the sun's shining too, right? You work on your suntans.
I want to ask you, back in the day, I did football and track, and just kind of like you were saying, track was always a lot more laid back. It was, I really enjoyed going to track in a lot of ways because of that, because the pressure, obviously it's high when you're doing your events, but at the same time, it was a lot more relaxed. I spent a ton of time. I did the throws. Obviously spent a ton of time with the throws coach, but the head coach I'd see and chat with on a semi-regular basis. How is it for you? How do you juggle going to all the different events and all the different competitors with over 100 athletes? What's the secret, if there is one? How do you make that happen?
Well, I would say it's very similar because I'm in charge of the sprinters and the relays. So I have my focus group, and that's where I do spend most of my time. But, we have our team meetings, so you get to see the whole group, the throwers as they're passing by to go to the throw pits. You try to say hi, you chat with them a little bit. During a track meet, there is downtime, so maybe a distance event is going on. So I'm watching the distance event, cheering them on, but it's also a time to maybe walk over to the jumps or to the throws. And you try to be as present as you can for each and every event. But the kids understand, they know their position coaches with them intensely or full time. And then everybody, my whole staff, we all circle around and try to watch all kids as much as we can. So
nice.
Now, one last question for you. And I kind of want you to take a global perspective on this one, more of an NSD global. When I say that, with anybody listening out there who doesn't have any kids in the system, in the community, any of that stuff, why should they come out and watch track?
Track is a difficult sport sometimes to watch from beginning to end because it is very long. But if you want to come cheer on kids, the two main track meets this year is Nampa City Championships, and we host it this year at Skyview High School. We rotate it through the 3, and that's April 11th. And that's where you get to see all 3 high schools competing with the other ones in our city limits, so like Ridgeview and the charter schools in Nampa Christian. So that's the event if you want to see kids from the city of Nampa compete. And it's a high-level meet in town. And then there's another one that we host at Skyview. It's called the Skyview Invitational, and we'll have 15 teams in there, and not necessarily all 3 high schools go, but you just get to see a variety. So that's where I would kind of end that part, is not just the track meets, but if you want to see a variety of kids, when you go to a football game, you see football players. You go to a basketball game, you see basketball players. When you go to a track meet, You see football, basketball, volleyball, band, speech and debate, just a general academic kid who's AP government or whatever. That's one of the reasons why I love coaching it. It's because you get to see such a variety, and it's boys and girls. It's not just volleyball girls or football boys. So if you want to come cheer on just kids, like you said, globally, track is the way to do it. And if you need to pick your events a little bit, that's okay. Or come watch a couple, go get a hot dog at the concession stands and come back. It's a good time. It's kind of a competitive picnic in a way for spectators.
Nice.
Matt, any follow-ups before I ask my random question?
The last thing I wanted to know is you personally, we haven't really got to you back in the day as an athlete. Obviously, you've been coaching for a long time now, but I assume you did track back in the day.
So I only did track 1 year in high school. So I went out, I graduated from Idaho Falls High School, and the classic George Reagan was our track coach, who was at Capitol for a long, long time, and he does a lot of timing around the valley. He was my track coach. Oh. My little brother was a sophomore, and he was faster than me. He was the 100-meter guy. I was a 400-meter guy because I can run fast for a long time, but, man, my brother would just smoke me. Anyway, so I went out my senior year because my plan was to go to college and play football, and I wanted to work on my speed. Okay. And so, 1 year of track, and then when I first got into coaching football, I always knew track was the complement, and I wanted to get into it. So my first 2 years at Idaho Falls High School, I was the pole vault coach. I never pole vaulted a day in my life. But I learned the sport and I learned the activity because coaching is teaching. And then when I moved over here to Skyview High School, the great Al Stout was like, hey, you're the pole vault and high jump coach. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then I transitioned into the sprints, and then I transitioned, into the head coaching role, which I only intended to do for 5 years. And that's what I told Eric Bonds, and here we are 15 years later. But it's been awesome. It's been great. So
awesome. Great.
So that said, Skyview High School has a special place in Matt's heart. You may not know this, but we've started a video series called Cafeteria Chronicles.
I saw it.
And Matt fell in love with something called a frazzle.
I saw it.
So the question is, how many times a week do you visit the cafeteria and get a frazzle?
That pog. Zero.
I have not had one.
Oh,
probably don't start.
So I try to limit my sugar intake, right? And I'm part of a contest at school, kind of getting that winter weight off and everything. Yeah, so I do frequent the salad bar once in a while. But yeah, every time a kid goes by, especially after your little segment, it's like, what flavor you got today? And like you said, the number one, I forget the flavor.
Pog.
Pog.
That is the most popular one. That was an awesome segment.
If there's anything, and thank you. If there's anything I could tell you, don't start. It's like a don't do drugs ad. Don't start with Pog. One time it's a gateway drink.
If it makes you feel any better, when I first got to Skyview, we got to work the lunch line and work in the cafeteria, and your pay was free lunch. And did I eat that up? I'm not one of those that runs from a free lunch, let alone even cafeteria. And I would load my plate up as much as I can. When that went away, I lost 10 pounds.
Yeah, I remember that back in the dorm days, just loading up that plate as much as you can.
Yep.
All right, Dave. Well, we really appreciate you being here today and chatting with us about track. And anything else you want to just add about your upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, we're excited. We're 100+ kids right now, a lot of new faces. And one benefit with that athletic period is we have some kids who decided to try track that probably wouldn't have.
Oh, cool.
So for our community and with all these changes, that's been a huge plus for us. And yeah, we're just excited to get going and get through spring break. The month of April is competition month. It's a big month. So we're excited to get there.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dave Young's potential final season as head track coach for Skyview High School. Go support this team. And thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Well, and go support all the teams.
All the teams, of course.
Yeah.
But we got Dave here. We already said it for them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us on, what was this, episode 22 of the Nampa School District Podcast. And until next time, not tomorrow, because we're not going to do a fourth one this week, but hopefully, who knows what's going to happen. But next week, we'll try our best to get episode 23 of whatever.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. But until next time, we will see you guys later.
Bye-bye.